Oh, how interesting. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are tuning in. Thank you for joining me today. Just as we were getting started here, I got a notification on my phone that only users on Instagram, only people who have over 1,000 followers are allowed to make live videos now. I think I'm at 900 and something, so this will just be a Facebook Live today, and that's fine. I'll post it on Instagram later. So yeah, welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. Lovely to be here with you all. And for those of you who don't know me, probably do already because this is my Facebook page. But regardless, my name is Chris, and I am a longtime mindfulness and meditation facilitator and teacher. I'm also a certified clinical trauma professional with a real emphasis in somatic psychology. And so I am here on Facebook Live today. I'm returning to Facebook Live. I've been doing these pretty regularly since 2020. And really, the intention here is to build up sort of a momentum towards an 8-week online program that I'm offering. And so, here for the next few moments, I will speak about this program, and then I'll get into the topic of embodiment. And these are obviously connected, right? The title of the course is Resilience Training. Pardon me. Resilience Training. And the subtitle is Finding Homeostasis, Encouraging Responsiveness. And so the course runs from August 17th to October 5th. We're going to be meeting once a week on Sundays from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings. That's East Coast time. If you're in Thailand, that would be 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Sunday evenings. So hopefully those two flags in the sand as far as time zones go, you can maybe calculate your time zone accordingly. You can always ask Google too. You can Google time zones, and they'll tell you what time it'll be in your area of the world if that's helpful for you. Do know that there is a time change during the course, but where I am, the times don't change. So wherever you are, the times will either go ahead an hour or back an hour, depending on where you are in the world. So yeah, do take that into account if you're planning on making these sessions live. And that's a nice segue. So I am there offering the sessions live with everyone else. You know, so many of today's offerings online are pre-recorded. That's not this. This I am there with the cohort, answering questions, interacting with people, offering the practices live, and so forth. I feel that adds a bit of an extra element, a bit of more support for our learning. Now that being said, those sessions are all offered over Zoom, and so they are recorded. And so if you're going to participate in the course, but you can only make two of the sessions live and you have to do everything else on record or everything else by video, totally fine. Maybe you can make them all and that's great, or maybe you plan on making them all but you have to miss one unexpectedly. It'll be recorded, so no worries. So yeah, everything is fresh and in the moment in that way. Nothing's pre-recorded. Ooh, a little sip of something here. Everything that I offer is offered within a trauma-informed framework. As I mentioned, I am a certified clinical trauma professional. That being said, many of the practices in the resilience training course are specifically designed to help alleviate some of the symptoms of trauma or maybe even just a mild stress that seems to be residing in the body. These practices that we'll be exploring and concepts will be super helpful at alleviating some of that. And you might think, I don't really have any trauma in my life. But to be honest with you, and perhaps I'm biased, but I actually have never met another human being who didn't have trauma in their body And, it's been said that our decontextualized trauma becomes personality. And so, yeah, most people have these indelible marks in their being that were left through some experiences in childhood or some experiences in adulthood that we didn't have a way of integrating. And so they leave these indelible marks, and then we just become the angry person, or we become the person who gets sleepy every time they're about to give a talk or engage socially, right? The body starts to go into a freeze response or something like that. So there's many, many, many variations on that theme, and you might be able to just take a moment to explore, your own life, and yeah, okay, I do have that tendency. I'm not sure why. That might be one of those indelible marks. And then, these practices give us a way of freeing ourselves from that. So we stop becoming the angry person and we start becoming the person who recognizes that anger is appropriate sometimes to keep us safe, but not appropriate all of the time. Right? And so we start to be able to discern that difference. Okay, so that's the course. Again, it's resilience training, and we open August 17th and it runs to October 5th. If you want to find out more, please visit my website, suchsweetthunder.org, or you can email me through the website as well if you have any questions about the course. I did want to mention also, and this is a bit on the topic, a bit off the topic, I'm also hosting a free, no charge for this, book study on the book called On Tyranny, classic book by Timothy Snyder, really, really wonderful writing. If you're at all plugged into the rise of fascism in America, this book study might be very, very helpful. And really, what's happening in America is why, this book is designed to serve that experience. So yeah, please join us. There's no charge. Again, we'll be meeting for maybe an hour and 15 minutes on Sunday evenings, East Coast time, beginning again, same weekend, August 17th. And so for that, what he's done, Timothy Snyder, is he himself has created about a 10-minute long video vignette for each chapter in the book. So it's great if you get the book. It's actually a wonderful book, and Timothy is a genius, and it's just lovely to read words from that mind. So you get turned on by brilliant people like I do. That would be a good read for you. But if you're not going to read the book, maybe your life is very full with other activities, the 10-minute videos, some of them are 7, some of them are 12, roughly 10 minutes. Those make a great supplement to the book, and that if that's all you're going to do for the book study, that's also fine. That's awesome. There's some really valuable information in those videos. If you're curious about that, I've posted a few chapters 1 through 3 on my Facebook page if you want to check out some of those videos that I'm referring to. But please do join us for either the book study or the resilience training or both, and we'll hope to see you there. Okay, that went on far too long. So let's get into some practice. So we're talking about embodiment. And there is a type of practice that I find very helpful. Most of these practices are helpful around embodiment. But there is a practice called tapping. And some of you may know tapping. It's gotten a lot of press lately. It's been accepted widely in yoga studios and things like that. So it is exactly what it sounds like. We tap the entire body from the top of the head to the bottoms of the feet. And I'm going to do this standing up. You don't have to, but that's how I like to do it. So I hope you'll join me. But remember, everything that I offer here or on courses, it's all invitation. So if this doesn't feel like something you want to do right now, do something else. That's fine. Come back when you're ready. So we do tapping. We start at the top of the head, and we just kind of tap the center line there. There's an acupressure point there. And you might notice I'm not tapping very hard, but I can feel the impact. I'm going to go down to the sides of the head now. Right, so I'm not just kind of brushing the skin, but I'm actually feeling this. Right now I'm feeling it right on the skull. It's actually quite pleasant. To the back of the head. So we want the taps not too hard, not too soft. You know, just enough so that we can feel the impact in the flesh. And I'm carrying a lot of tension in my forehead today, so that feels actually very good. And now I'm tapping the eyelids. Again, this is just a gentle tap here. But we tend to carry a lot of tension behind the eyes. So that can be quite helpful. I'm doing the corners of the eyes where my crow's feet tend to hang out. Down underneath the eyes. Cheeks of the face. And then the sides of the neck. Now, you might be the kind of person who doesn't have a lot of sensation in the body. And that's very normal. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later. So I'm just tapping the shoulder. I'm using the knuckles here. I'm just getting a good kind of wrap on the shoulder. You know, again, we don't want to bruise ourselves, but we want to be able to feel that impact to the elbow, and then the top of the forearm tapping down to the wrist, the back of the hand. So what you might do, if you have trouble feeling your body, and so many people do nowadays, I'm getting the karate chop side of the pinky finger there to the wrist. Then you can say, okay, while I'm tapping, I might say, this is my arm. This is my arm. This is my bicep and tricep here. This is my underarm. And so as I'm tapping the underarm, I'm using the open palm and just tapping lightly there. This stimulates the lymph node. It activates the immune system. A lot of benefit to that. Let me go down just a little bit. You go down the side, maybe 6 inches or so. But you can send the vibrations all the way into the heart. That's nice. Okay. So I go back and, you know, this is my shoulder. This is my shoulder. So really staking our claim on the body, that can really help wake up the body. This is my elbow. This is my forearm. This is my wrist, my hand. Right? And just by doing that verbally out loud while we're doing the tapping, we're reinforcing the mind-body connection. Again, so much benefit to that connection, and I'll talk more about that when I'm done tapping. Again, doing the underarm here. Going down a bit down the side. This is perfect for me because I had a kind of a late night last night. I had a online session that went close to 10 p.m. Then, you know, winding down after that, and kind of a late night, and I get up early to practice. I meditate starting around 4:30 every morning. So this is really invigorating sometimes. It is for me. And so now I'm doing the legs, and let me show you how I do the legs. Oh, I got into that and I forgot this part. I forgot the upper torso. Let's do that first. So this is the King Kong posture. For obvious reasons, right? So yeah, really sending the heart some love here. This can be really good if you're the type of person who holds tension or stress around the heart area. That can feel quite lovely. Then I'm going down to the upper abdomen. Just getting a good tap there. And then I'm going down to the lower abdomen, and here I do like right over the hip bones, like that. And so there's an energy center just below the navel, and this can help accumulate energy there. And that energy can be used for your day, better than coffee. I like my coffee, but this could be good too. So now I'm going to show the legs. Okay. So here we do the sides of the legs going down, and then we twist and we do the shin and the calf coming up and up into the thigh and the quadricep, like that. Okay. So tapping the sides of the legs. And again, I'm using my knuckles, you know. So maybe I'm going to start calling this knocking instead of tapping. I'm really knocking on the body. Going down to the ankle, I turn, I twist the arms, I do the shin and the calf coming up to the knee and the upper leg. And I'll do the same thing on the other leg. So here, again, doing the sides of the legs, coming down to the knee. And here too, you can say, this is my leg, this is my leg. As we turn the hands, we do the shin and the calf. This is my lower leg, this is my calf, this is my shin. The knee coming up to the upper leg. And then before we finish, we do what's called an energy sweep. So we just sweep the energy off of the body, the stagnant energy that was released from the tapping. And you know, when I first got introduced to this, I'm a very evidence-based, science-based kind of practitioner. And I thought, well, that energy sweep seems kind of woo-woo. But I like it. It feels good. There's something about it. I really can kind of sense the energy being discharged. And so that can be quite lovely. So, yeah. Whew. And as I was saying, that can be quite energizing for some. And I found it very kind of brightened my energy up a bit. I'm still feeling a little groggy from the late night, but yeah. And for some people, tapping, I got a little winded. For some people, tapping can be very soothing. And so their energy might come down a bit after a round of tapping. And so, you know, just to note that these practices can land differently for different people. That's the idea. So, embodiment. What does that concept, what does that word mean, embodiment? Well, it really means, you know, experiencing our life through the physicality of the body. So being very connected, if you will, to the physical experiences that we're having. So I don't know about you all, but for me, for many, many, many years of my life, I felt like I was a head, like this, and my body just kind of dangled there underneath me, right? And I was just kind of a head being carted around by this body. And I think a lot of people experience life in that way. In fact, I didn't know that I was experiencing. I didn't know that that was not normal, or normal is a weird word too for that. But I didn't know that there was an option to that experience. I thought that was just how everyone was, and that's how life felt. And so the result of living life from here is that we lose connection to pleasure. And we also, and in great part, one of the reasons for that numbing is a fear of pain, fear of discomfort. And naturally, you know, as young children, we are naturally afraid of physical pain, right? Because that's, yeah, it hurts and it's threatening. It's existentially threatening. Not only that, but as a young person, maybe age 4 or 5, at least in my life, I was aware of death quite early in my life. I was maybe 4 or 5 when an uncle died, and I you know, was taught about death from my mom and dad at a very young age. And then I experienced quite a bit of death as a youngster growing up as well. So that very early experiences of fear of death can cause a child to sort of numb out the body, because our body is impermanent, right? And we recognize that. Even at a young age, we start to recognize that, you know, the nails grow and we cut the nails, right? The hair falls out, right? This body is constantly replenishing itself and passing away at the same time. So that acknowledgement that this body isn't going to last forever, as a youngster, it lands, for many anyway, as a reason or something to escape from. And so we go through the project of numbing the body out. You know, also the process of socialization, you know, toilet training, blowing one's nose, you know, all of these very unpleasant physical experiences that we have as youngsters also lends itself to that numbing effect. So these practices that we're engaging in the 8-week course can be very, very helpful at waking the body up. So we start to re-inhabit the body um, in a sort of a newfound way. And once we get a hit of that, because it's like, wow, it's almost like going from a black and white TV to a color TV, right? We start to experience a lot more of our life. So one of the caveats to that is that we don't get to choose what we wake up to, right? We can't wake up to pleasure and continue numbing the pain. It doesn't work that way. If it did, we'd all have done that by now, right? So we have to be, cultivating a certain window of tolerance so that we can hold more and more of our discomfort while opening up to the pleasure of life and the color of life, the beauty of life. And they work simultaneously. The more open we become to the joy of life, the more resilience we have to hold the discomforts of life. So, and likewise, the more discomfort we're able to open up to, the more open we are for the beauty of life, the joy of life, the laughter of life, right? So, and that is one way of working, and one way that I have found very helpful, is we sort of titrate into the pain, just as much as we can, as much as our window is open to. And then we sort of revert back to the pleasures of life, the joys of life, so that our window can get a little more support. And then we revisit some more of the difficulty, right? And then okay, that's enough of that. Let's go back to the rainbows, and we recharge. And so this becomes a pendulation practice. So some of the benefits are this kind of newfound way of experiencing life, right? We have more access to the pleasures of life, the joys of life, the laughter of life, equally more access to the pain and discomfort of life. And so what starts to happen there is we feel more pain, but it bothers us less, because we have more space to hold it. And that becomes quite lovely. We start to be able to metabolize difficult experiences in the moment. So again, the subtitle of the course, encouraging responsiveness, right? So in that way, we become much less likely to react to the discomforts of life, and more likely to respond when we have that window of tolerance. So that can be very, very helpful. Yeah, so tapping can be one way. Last time I was here too in this setting, we did havening, also a beautiful, beautiful practice. I love havening. I've really been doing a lot of it lately. It's so helpful. And if you're familiar with EMDR, it sort of works on the same principle, where you're stimulating the hemispheres of the body, and thus stimulating the hemispheres of the brain, so that the right hemisphere, the emotional part of the brain, can communicate more easily with the logical part of the brain. So we sort of unconsciously then find meaning in our suffering. And that's, super, super helpful. Yeah. So I just kind of started doing, if you want to join me, you're welcome to. It's just that process of grabbing the shoulders and giving a gentle squeeze down to the arms. So another benefit of embodiment that I wanted to speak to here, and this is something we will definitely be exploring in the 8-week course, is the practice of learning in the body is much more long-lasting than the process of learning cognitively. So it's the difference between installing new learnings into our implicit memory. That same memory bank we use when we go to tie our shoes, right? I don't have to think about how to tie my shoes. It's just there in the body, right? I don't need to think about how to make my coffee in the morning, right? It's just there, right? And so many of our behaviors and activities. You know, as a musician, I trained as a musician when I went to college. I studied music, and that's how musicians learn, right? Is by running scales over and over again. We install the muscle in the muscle memory and habitual memory and implicit memory, what that scale feels like, right? Or we learn certain passages of music and we remember what that passage feels like, in addition to the sound, right? I just moved into this new house, and there's a lovely, huge window right in front of where I teach now, and so yeah, occasionally we get trucks passing by. So that's the idea, and because a musician, when you're on stage in front of thousands of people, if you're so lucky, um, you know, w- thinking about the next passage isn't really going to work because there's so much energy in that setting, right? The nervous system is just like, whoa, there's a lot of excitement. So, and this is what I'm leaning into, the when we get charged or triggered or activated, the prefrontal cortex part of the brain, the logical part of the brain, goes dark. And you might ask yourself, if you can remember the last time you got in an argument, how logical were you? Or the last time you were, in an emergency situation, how much logic were you able to access? And so that's the human nature. And when you think about how smart that is for our evolution, right? If I was in New York City, standing on Fifth Avenue and 42nd Street near Times Square, and I, for whatever reason, stepped off the street curb before the light change. Right now, there's a truck barreling down at New York speeds. If I had to think logically what to do there, I'd be dead. Right? If I was like, oh, there's a truck coming. I wonder if I have time to move forward. Maybe I should move back or to the side. Is that truck even going to hit me? Maybe he'll swerve. Done. Right? But and that's why the prefrontal cortex, goes dark. So we have access to the much faster parts of the brain, the reptilian brain, the emotional brain. That's what alerts us that the truck is coming, and we jump back onto the curb very quickly, right? And then, the adrenaline is pumping, the heart's beating fast. We've mobilized all of our energy into flight response in that moment. So fast, right? How fast that happens in a mind moment, right? It happens. And then, a few seconds later, the prefrontal cortex comes back online. We think, oh, that was close. Wow, I almost died there. Maybe I should look both ways next time. So then we're installing that lesson into our implicit memory with our logic, right? We're feeling in the body what it felt like to be charged, what it felt like to land back on the curb, right? So next time we go to cross the street, we're much more likely to look both ways, right? So very often I get the question, particularly if I'm teaching about Buddhism or mindfulness, but even some of the somatic practices too, I get these questions like, I can do this in practice when I'm alone or in groups, but when I'm, in an argument or when I'm, triggered somehow, all of that seems to go out the window and I just can't remember what to do. What did Chris say there? Oh, right, something about havening, I don't remember, right? Totally normal. Again, it's because that information has remained information in the prefrontal cortex. We haven't yet installed it into the body, because once it's installed in the body, it doesn't leave, right? So that's how we remain skillful when the chips are down, right? So it's, no longer are we subjected to, getting triggered, and then we just react to the trigger instinctually, right? And then 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later, an hour later, a day later, we're like, oh, why did I do that? That was so dumb, right? Or whatever it is, right? And then we're left to problem solve and clean up the mess, right? So, in this, in these practices of embodiment, we're sort of circumventing that issue, that tendency to do that. And we are, yeah, we have much more access to the wisdom that we've kind of installed in the body. Hmm. Well, that's helpful. So there's so many practices to offer, and maybe I'll just offer one more here. This will be a very brief meditation. I'll try to keep this to about 10 minutes. And this will be smiling meditation. There's lots of science around the power of a smile. And even if our smile is forced or contrived, the science tells us that whenever we smile, the muscle memory, the implicit memory of that smile, brings forth a flood of endorphins and oxytocin into the body, into the nervous system. Now, when I say a flood, I realize that sounds like we're gonna feel like every time we smile. It's usually very subtle, right? But it can be just a slight joy feeling or a slight like ding, ah, that kind of thing, like that. So, smiling meditation, I'll ring the bell, I'll invite us into a smile, we'll start to feel the smile, and maybe we'll play around with it for a little while, and then we'll be done. So, the way I offer meditation is that it can be done in any posture, however you feel comfortable. The general guidelines for that are that some posture that can help you stay alert and awake and present, and relaxed and soft into the moment as well. So, whatever that means for you. And feel free to change posture mid practice too. And all of the practices that I offer can be done equally as well with our eyes open or closed, however you feel comfortable. Okay, so I'll ring the bell. And so taking a few moments to settle in, maybe noticing some of the sounds of the present moment. And if you can hear from my side of the experience, you'd hear these beautiful bird songs. Maybe the gentle hum of an appliance like an air conditioner or a fan or a heater. It might be the occasional car or truck passing by outside or airplane flying overhead. So just listening, sort of kindly, gently landing awareness into the field of silence and sound. The way a honeybee might gently land on a flower. And so we don't need to try to force hearing. The sounds simply appear. And so there's no effort required in the invitation to listen. You just relax and notice the sound. There might be pleasant sounds or unpleasant sounds. There might be neutral sound. Letting go of any need to change the sounds or problem solve. Simply listening, simply listening. And then if the mind is wandering, remember that's very normal. We could label that thinking, thinking, and returning back to hearing, hearing. So not making the thoughts into a problem, but just noticing and returning to the sounds. And then perhaps in the next breath or two, the invitation here is to gently offer yourself a smile. And you might literally smile on your face, and that can be quite lovely. Or if you'd rather simply smile internally toward yourself, that's also fine. We can begin to trace, with our awareness, trace the outline of the lips of the smile from one corner of the mouth. Noticing, are the lips parted or together? Noticing the areas of the lips that feel tense or relaxed. Is your smile a big, toothy smile or more subtle, relaxed kind of smile? Maybe noticing the slight tension in the corners of the lips, bringing the lips upward into the smile. Maybe the cheeks sort of ball up a little bit in an effort to create the smile. And you might notice the corners of the eyes crinkle up just a bit with this smile. You might not, and that's fine. Whatever is there for you. And just feeling into the smile. What does this smile feel like? Is there an emotion that comes with your smile? Maybe a slight sense of contentment or joy or peace, calm. Maybe just a sense of well-being. What might it be like to offer this smile to our own feet? Smiling at our feet. These, if you have feet, and if your body has been surgically altered, that's fine. And then just modifying the practice to suit your needs, whatever feels comfortable. But if you're having 2 feet or even 1 foot, offering the smile there, maybe offering gratitude to these pendular extremities that propel us through the world. How lovely. Offering that same warm smile to the legs, from the ankles to the knees to the hips. Just greeting each sensation of the legs the way we might greet a friend we haven't seen in a while, with warmth and kindness. Maybe with a type of curiosity too. Offering that same smile to the back, the lower back, the middle of the back, the upper back. Holding the sensations of the back the way we might hold a kitten or a puppy. And if you're noticing some discomfort in the body, Notice what it feels like to smile at that discomfort or to that discomfort. Very counterintuitive. But notice what happens when we smile at the discomfort. Very often, that smiling at our discomfort brings forth a type of self compassion. It can be very helpful. We can bring this smile to the abdomen, the belly rising and falling with the breath. I carry a lot of tension in my belly these days, so just offering the smile there, I can feel that, oh, yeah, things are tough right now. Mm. So I have this warmth of self-compassion sort of surrounding the sensations in the belly. And smiling to the upper torso, offering our own heart a smile. If you'd like, you might even place your hand over your heart, or both hands over the heart, if that's helpful. What's it like to offer our own heart a smile? And smiling to our own shoulders and arms, these wonderful extremities which allow us to hold a loved one or a pet or our groceries. Offering that same warmth and smile to our own hands, if we have hands. Again, if your body's been modified in some way, please adjust accordingly, offering the smile to wherever you feel comfortable. Not trying to force anything. Smiling to our own neck and throat. Oh. Yeah, I carry some tension there, just above the shoulders. I felt that when I offered the smile there. And then, what's it like to smile to our own face? Letting go of any idea of what we look like and just smiling to the sensations that are there. Meeting the sensations of our own face the way we might meet a good friend. If you are using that move of compassionate support there, I'd invite us to allow our hands to rest or hand to rest. So in a few moments' time, I'll ring the bell and bring us back into our conversational space. So I hope this session has been helpful. This went on about 10 minutes longer than I intended, but I hope it's helpful. I will try to be mindful of our time and try to keep these to about a half an hour, but we'll see. I haven't been able to do that so well. Thanks again for joining me. Hope to see you on the resilience training course and or at the On Tyranny book study. Again, for more information about both of those programs, please visit my website, www.suchsweetthunder.org. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions about anything that was discussed here or anything else for that matter. And have a great rest of your week and weekend ahead.